podcast of Cream of the Crop podcast. Today I am joined by two recurring guests, backed by popular demand. Two of probably the funniest people that we continue to have on the podcast. First of which, I call her LZ, Lauren Zachary, or Lauren. Those are all the nicknames that I give her. And she's here today. She's in the house.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Pam.
You're welcome. You know, after your first episode on The Hustle, multiple people told me, oh my gosh, Lauren is hilarious. You need to put her on every episode.
Aww.
I haven't had you back yet until now.
Thank you.
Welcome back. The other person, back by just personal request, he is my personal comfort blanket.
Oh.
And assistant. Joseph Levi Montanez Jr. Social security number is... No, I'm just kidding.
No, don't give that out. Hey, thanks for having me back.
Here. Now, if anyone listening could give a good drum roll, like just stop and give a drum roll if you're listening to this podcast. For our third guest, brand new to the Cream of Crop podcast, excited to have him on, film nerd, knows so much about every single movie ever made, Jonathan Zachary. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here. I've been waiting for years to be on this podcast.
Now, is it true that you've seen the AFI Top 100 every single movie 3 times?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you seen AFI's Top 100 though? All of them?
No.
Oh, okay. I think I'm over halfway. I think I got a good 70 in there.
I think I'm at like 60 something.
Okay. Yeah. Joe, what are you at? 2?
I don't know. I couldn't get through Duck Soup, so.
I don't think I did either. Have you seen Duck Soup?
I have not.
Lauren, have you seen any of them?
No.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen.
I probably have
Welcome
seen
to this week's episode where we discuss Duck Soup.
That would not make it on this podcast, I don't think. But I'm excited for the movie that did make it this week, which we watched, I think, over a month and a half ago. Or I feel like a month and a half feels like
It was a
good
long
number.
time ago.
It's a long time ago. We watched it, we sat down to record, and my computer would not record. But we back. And today's the day. We're going to try to remember what the movie was about. I'm going to go ahead and try to show everyone the trailer, just to try to bring back some good memories.
That trailer is several times more exciting than the movie.
Yeah, it's powerful. I'm getting a little emotional. That's a good movie.
Okay. We watched the trailer. Now I'm just going to go through the podcast basics. I'm going to read the synopsis here, go through the main cast, general basics, then we'll hop into our discussion. First off, any guesses as to what this movie is rated on Rotten Tomatoes? I think we talked about it, but does anyone remember?
Lauren knew. I don't know if she remembers.
I knew, but I have a terrible memory. I'm going to guess 0%. That sounds fun.
I think it was under 5.
We got a 1%er, guys.
Yes.
We got 1%. Lauren was very close. All right, synopsis.
I would love to meet that 1%.
Synopsis. The most important event in the history of mankind is happening right now. In the blink of an eye, the biblical rapture strikes the world. Millions of people disappear without a trace. All that remains are their clothes and belongings, and in an instant, terror and chaos spread around the world. The vanishings cause unmanned vehicles to crash and burn. Planes fall from the sky. Emergency forces everywhere are devastated. Gridlock, riots, and looting overrun the cities. There is no one to help or provide answers. In a moment, the entire planet is plunged into darkness.
God, it's good.
Main cast: Nicolas Cage, Chad Michael Murray, Cassie
CMM.
Thomas, Leah Thompson, and Jordan Sparks.
Oh yeah, Jordan is in this movie.
The director is Vic Armstrong, which caught me off guard because I looked up his highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes, which was all the Indiana Jones movies. I was like,
Ooh.
Wait. What?
WTH?
No, that's not true. That's Steven Spielberg.
Exactly. And this is the exact conversation we had about it. So I was like, what? Oh, yeah, Steven Spielberg directed those. He was the stunt coordinator. So his highest rated movie, this is his only directorial movie. He was a stunt coordinator for a bunch of great movies, but this is the only movie he's directed.
Oh my God, he finally got saved.
It's rated PG-13, and the critics' consensus of this movie is, "Yea, verily, like unto a plague of locusts left behind hath begat a further scourge of devastation upon Nicolas Cage's once profound filmography." So that's all the details. Let's jump into it. Movie highlights.
Also, I'd like to let everyone know tonight we're all imbibing in some tasty beverages.
Oh, gosh.
Some
First one.
margaritas, a couple beers, an old fashioned. We're just getting a little loose this evening.
All right. So Nicolas Cage plays, what's his name?
I don't even know.
Oh, Rayford or Raymond Steele?
I think
Rayford?
I think Ray is his name. Raymond
Ray
Steele.
Steele.
Sounds great.
Leah Thompson plays his wife,
That is
Irene.
a porn star name if I've ever heard one. Ray Steele.
Christian fiction name.
One and the same, right? Chad Michael Murray plays a edgy journalist.
Yes.
So hot.
Cassie Thomas, I believe, plays the daughter Steele. I don't know her first name. And then Jordan Sparks, it lists as a main cast, but she's really just a very sub-character who is traveling on the plane when everyone disappears with, her son is with her.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, everyone.
Yeah, spoiler.
Half the people disappear.
So Ray is a pilot who is cheating on his wife. And he skips out on a family weekend because Leah Thompson, who plays his wife, has become a Christian and is so intense about it. No one in the family wants to be around her. So, their family's kind of falling apart because she's just trying to save them all the time. At least that's what the movie heavily implies.
Sure.
And then, so Ray goes to fly on this trip to get away from his family and to go see some concert with this flight attendant that he's dating. And that's when things get real.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you've read the book, you know the story. If you don't read the book, hopefully that's enough to get you by for now.
Haven't read it, but I want to now.
I actually have a lot of the comic books. That was how my parents got me into Left Behind, is they gave me the comic book versions.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I still think I have them all in my parents' basement.
I read the books. I can't say I remember all of them, but I definitely remember the first book, which was... I'll talk about that later when we get to the story section. But as far as highlights, I feel like my highlights aren't, good things about the movie. It's things that really made me laugh.
Yes.
And then I have some low-light moments that also made me laugh. But I broke them out separately. So I'll start with a highlight.
Okay.
That I just remembered during the trailer, which for me is the highlight of the whole movie. This is, if I had to pick one standout moment, this is it. And it is the moment the rapture happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
And that was probably the most powerful moment in the movie for me, personally.
So she's at the mall with her little brother. This girl's at the mall with her brother. And they're, having this time. She can't find him. It turns out he's, in some kind of flash mob or, watching some break dancers dance in the mall or something like that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, you can't run away. This scared me, whatever. And she gives him a hug, and they're, laughing. They're like, okay. And... of all ways they could have depicted the rapture in a movie, this is my favorite. She's holding him, and just like a cut shot that I would do on Vine, he disappears, and she hugs herself, and his clothes are just in her arms.
Shout out Vine app.
Rip Vine. But... she's just holding these clothes now, and that's also one of the highlights for me. Is that, how else would you imagine it happens? But everyone's clothes are left perfectly in the position that they were sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And their shoes are there. Everything's exactly how they're shirts are up on a chair.
You know what would have been a better way to do the rapture scene? Instead of everyone just kind of vanishing, like, what if everyone just exploded? It'd be cooler, right?
Into
A much better
confetti?
movie.
Into glitter?
I don't know, into confetti, but like if they
Into-
just, instead of just softly disappearing, what if there was just a loud explosion? I don't know.
I mean, that would be really intense.
All right,
I
we
mean,
can we can edit this
I
out.
think
I'm sorry, guys.
in the book, I don't remember how it exactly is described in the book, but I think if from a reading perspective, I think it could have been cool to depict it as like, you know, because not everyone's paying attention to everyone at all times. You're really only focused on the people in your peripheral or the people that are important to you. And I think it could have been cool if they just like started suddenly disappearing, clothes and all, when like somehow you just didn't notice. And then, like, all of a sudden, like, all these people are gone. But
I was thinking after watching the trailer again, their clothes are left behind, but what if you, like, just bought an outfit that you loved so much and you couldn't take it with you to heaven?
yeah.
That would really suck.
I don't understand why your hair goes with you
That's,
and your skin.
you know?
And your teeth.
that's a good point.
But not your
There
clothes.
should just be, like, limp,
It's all
dead bodies
external
left.
things.
Is this true?
Wasn't people in the book? Didn't people's like gold fillings also stay behind? Or am I just making that up?
I don't remember.
I think there was something like
sounds good.
that. I think there was a gold filling.
Yeah, even if there wasn't something like that,
Some-
there should have been,
some
along
glass
with
eyes.
exploding disappearances.
All right, well, that's my movie highlight. I've talked a lot. Let's move around the circle here.
I mean, honestly, that is the best part of the movie. They lull you into, like, a false sense of security. So, like, they've built up the plot and the characters, like, a little bit up until this point, and she's with her brother, and they're having, like, nice family time.
Yeah.
And then they hug, and you're, like, you know, feeling the warmth as much as you can in this movie. But
Yeah.
just that moment when he disappears all of a sudden, it's always such a shock. Personally, I have to admit I've seen this movie 3 times.
Oh my god.
It's not one of my favorite movies.
Oh, you just keep watching.
I just happened to see it for various reasons. But I do love watching everyone's reaction to that part. And then the other part, which I think is hilarious / just terrible. I don't know who wrote this or what they were thinking.
I
But
think Kirk Cameron wrote it.
when they kick the man off the plane
Oh,
at the
Oh, man.
end,
That's actually the other thing I have listed that I thought Joe would list as one of his highlights as well.
I loved Joe's reaction to that part. Honestly, I was looking forward to how you guys would react.
I mean,
So-
this whole movie is just an endless highlight reel. I know it's got a 1% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish.
Yes.
Yes.
It is a gut buster. You will laugh if, I mean, only watch this movie. Only watch this movie if you're like in the mood to really laugh and have like a good time.
Yes.
But man, that was at the climax of the movie. That was the funniest thing. I went into a wheezing attack of laughter.
For anyone listening that doesn't know Joe's truly happy laughter, it's not like a ha 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 ha. He like does this ha ha like weird shout single laugh thing, and that definitely happened.
That happened several times, but especially during this scene, because you don't see it coming, right?
You
And
do
They
how
not.
is
safely-
one described? We just say the man gets kicked out of the plane. You want to describe it?
Please
So
describe.
yeah, and it's funny that we're talking about this.
We can
Is
post the YouTube link with the
Yes.
post for this podcast.
Yeah. You know, throughout the whole movie, there's a bunch of funny stuff going on. And they finally land the plane. Everyone's safe. They use the emergency slide to try to get off of the plane, which I'm not sure why they, inflated the slide in the first place. It was like a 2.5-foot drop, like the highest.
Land out from the plane. It's like, okay, that is not that far from the ground.
But one of the main characters.
Still easier to get out of.
I'm not going to say a main character, but one of the characters in the movie that you see regularly. He's that really famous dwarf.
His name is Martin Kleba,
Yeah.
and I had never heard that name, but I was definitely familiar with it.
I
Yeah.
think he's in a lot of other like action movies.
He's in everything. But he's standing at the edge of the slide and he's hesitant to go down the slide. And then out of nowhere, another passenger literally kicks him out of the plane and he goes flying down the slide.
Like head first.
Head first.
Bounces a couple times.
Bounces off the slide, then lands on the ground.
Falls very awkwardly on his face.
It's like, I don't know, but when it happened, I just lost it. It was, the whole movie was kind of leading up to this point for me.
Oh, this was the culmination.
This was the culmination. Everything was so funny up until this point, and then when this happened, like, I just lost it. I was crying at one point, laughing. It was phenomenal.
I can't imagine casting that character and telling him, basically, like, your whole character is extremely bitter about being small. Like, that's his whole character, the whole movie.
Yeah.
And then he hesitates for 1 second getting off that plane, and someone kicks him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's...
Does he start stealing stuff at one point in the movie?
He steals something.
Yeah, he's like, so, everyone's on a plane. When the rapture happens, you don't know what time, you don't know the hour, you don't know when it's going to happen. It's going to happen like a thief in the night. But all over the world, people are disappearing, and so some of the movie takes place on the plane that Nicolas Cage is flying, and immediately starts rummaging through people's stuff to, like, steal their stuff. This guy, when they wrote this character, I don't know what they were thinking, but
they really make him out to be like the worst person in the movie.
It's really interesting to see who does get raptured and who doesn't get raptured, and what that implies about who made the movie.
Yeah.
But there was also an elderly couple, and one of them had, like, dementia or something. And was it the woman doesn't get raptured, but her husband does? And doesn't she have dementia? And she's, like, sitting there confused.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Where is my husband?
Just like, what point is this trying to make?
I think somebody, or maybe I just thought
She's
it, but I
done
think
something
somebody
bad.
said it, maybe it was me, that was like, if you forget you're a Christian.
Yeah, it's just too bad. It's one of those unfortunate situations.
Or if she wasn't a Christian, like, what kind of shit did this sweet old lady do in her lifetime to not get raptured? She's
Maybe the
done
next
some stuff.
next movie's going to do a deep dive into her past.
Yeah.
I'd watch that.
Like, is she a murderer and we just don't know it?
Yeah, forgot.
She actually killed him and used the raptor to cover it up.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Where is my husband? There's so many good spin-offs from this movie that we could be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my highlights was just Nicolas Cage. I mean, he's not as outrageous as maybe you would hope.
Yeah, that's true.
It's pretty calm throughout
But
the whole thing.
he's, like, committed. He cares about this movie. I mean, he's committed to his performance anyway, and it's not super showy, but he definitely outacts everyone else in the movie.
It's very true. Having seen a lot of other Nick Cage movies, some good, some other bad ones, I think you're exactly right. Like, I don't think his acting was the worst that he's ever done.
Definitely.
In this movie.
Well, I mean, I really think you're spot on in terms of, like, him committing to the role. I don't think I've ever seen a movie with him where he hasn't fully committed to the role, Like, that's kind of what he's famous for, is just going all out in whatever character he's trying to portray.
But I don't think it was necessarily even bad. Like, I mean, he played a, convincing pilot in some ways, other than we don't think anyone really taught him how to be a pilot when he was actually.
This is true. There were some things that didn't make sense.
Yeah, there were some things that didn't make sense, and then suddenly Chad Michael Murray was helping out, and, like, didn't he go in there or
in the cockpit?
Yeah, in the cockpit, and he was helping fly for a while.
I need to watch this again.
Yeah.
What if that was a part of, like, his training for leading up to the role of this movie? Is it for a year he, like, actually went to flying school, like, studied how to become a pilot?
But I specifically remember we were watching one of the first scenes, like, in the airport, when he's talking to his daughter about why he's not gonna be home, and he's not gonna be home, but he's trying to get his daughter to give the mom a break.
Yeah. Well, he's not home because he's an adulterous son of a bitch.
Right. Well,
only because his wife fell in love with someone else.
Yeah.
And that someone else
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I remember Jonathan saying, like, if this was, I don't know, shot differently or directed differently, like, Nicolas Cage isn't doing a bad job in this.
Yeah.
It's like everything else surrounding the movie. And I think that's accurate.
I will say that the third time I watched it, I was surprised. In my mind, I had like made it out to be, or at least his performance out to be worse than I thought. And then watching it the third time, I was like, you know what? He didn't do so bad.
Yeah.
Good job, Nick.
Well, it's like even Chad Michael Murray in this movie, who is probably the second biggest star, like he's kind of like typecast into, you know, his way of acting also. He's like kind of that like deep talking, like slightly bad boy.
Like, I
like,
see you, girl. Like,
Yeah.
you're different, but like, I can see it.
Yeah. Like, I'm a bad boy, but like I'm sensitive too. So early on in the airport, you know, when he gives her those U2 tickets, he gives her these tickets. And when the daughter very early on finds out that the dad is cheating on their mother, or, you know, her mother, his wife, she writes something on the inside of the envelope. And then later on, after the rapture happens, he's standing, you know, in the plane, and I don't know, for whatever brief moment of solace he can find during the rapture, he opens up this envelope and looks at the tickets, and on the inside of the envelope it says like, "This is the most disappointing day of my life."
This is the saddest day of my life.
This is the saddest day of my life. And like, oh shit, the rapture's happened, and then he's also got to deal with this. That's a lot to put on Nicolas Cage.
I also think it's funny, like going back to Chad Michael Murray and the daughter, they like really hit it off in like a quick 3-minute convo in the airport. Some woman's trying to make Chad Michael Murray feel bad for his scientific style of journalism and his willingness to like disprove religion or creation or whatever it is, or the Bible. And the daughter, I wish I could remember her name, but the pilot's daughter,
I pulled up the IMDb at one point.
she's in the airport and kind of steps into this conversation.
Her name's Chloe.
Oh, Chloe.
Ah.
And Chloe tells the woman who's fighting him about his journalism style, like, she just kind of shuts it down and, like, poses all these questions why Christianity is false or wrong and, like, all these kind of things. And then that's in the moment when, like, they talk after that, and Chad Michael Murray's like, hey, you said, like, smart things. And then they end up, like, sitting and, like, you know, talking a lot about both of their lives and, like, become fast friends and I think somehow fall in love in the midst of the rapture.
They do.
Yeah.
Even though Chad Michael Murray's on the plane and they've only ever talked for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, can we talk about Jordan Sparks' character in this movie?
I've categorized that under low moments, a particular thing that she does. But
Okay.
if you think it's a highlight,
Well, if we're ready to move on to low moments, we can do that. Is there any other funny
it just
moments?
depends how you're categorizing it.
Who did she play?
She was just a
She
passenger
was-
on the plane, and she had a kid with her.
No, but she wasn't just she was an NFL player's wife.
Oh, okay.
Right, but the
Yeah.
NFL player wasn't on the plane.
Yeah.
Right.
It was her and her kid.
Because did the rapture happen on a Sunday?
I categorize this as a low moment because, I don't know, I guess we were laughing. Maybe it's a highlight. I don't know. But when her son disappears, she suddenly...
Daughter.
her daughter disappears. Guys, I don't know anything.
That's fine.
Her daughter disappears, and she suddenly thinks that someone kidnapped her.
That's
or
right.
that her NFL husband sent
It's
someone
true.
to kidnap her
Yeah.
so that it would stop her from leaving him. And suddenly she pulls a gun on everyone.
Well, no, there was an air marshal that was on the plane that was a Christian
Yeah.
and vanished.
Of
And
course.
she pocketed that gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was getting ready to shoot someone.
Yeah.
Even
So-
though half the plane had disappeared, it wasn't just her
Right.
daughter.
She, like, couldn't see that. I don't remember if we were laughing at that point or not. It was just like, oh gosh, this is...
I mean, I was laughing.
yeah.
Because she out of nowhere, she just pulls out a gun, and who does she point it at? I can't
Oh,
remember.
like 5 people. Like, everyone's in a circle. And then,
It's
yeah,
like,
everyone's, like, trying to convince her, especially Chad Michael Murray's trying to convince her that no one did it and, like, all this stuff. And
it's like, yeah, we're in the midst of the rapture, but if you're married to a person that you think has the capability to make multiple people vanish at any given time, like, if you think that's a real possibility, like, you're definitely crazy.
Yeah, it felt like a stretch.
Yeah.
yeah. That one was the biggest stretch. I mean, can someone get kicked off a plane and bounce up? Yes.
She whips out, she whips out a gun. You're like, whoa, she's legitimately crazy right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
rapture or
do
not?
Crazy things for your
Maybe,
kids.
yeah, maybe anyone would be crazy if their kid suddenly disappeared and their pile of clothes was just sitting there.
For highlights, I had the same things. Nicolas Cage, the rapture sequence, which came so late you forgot it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the breakdancing scene, which is so bad. It's so off. It's just like a little bit off.
This is true. The beat's
Everyone's
off.
clapping to a beat that is, and they're not in time.
Everyone's clapping on the one.
And that kind of,
And they're all really happy, I feel like.
I'm very happy.
yeah, just feels so unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that's when it feels the most like a Christian production.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that throws you off so much that after that, when the rapture does happen, you've already forgotten why you're watching this movie because you're just thinking they're not clapping on the beat.
It's a great distraction, yeah.
I would say I was just thinking of another really, I don't know, low moment, forced moment, felt like a Christian production moment was when she makes it to the church and she's talking to the pastor who got left behind. And she's like trying to make sense of it all, and he like doesn't really have the answers, and she just ends up screaming and yelling at him and running out anyway. Like, I don't know. I was like, okay, I don't even know what's happening.
What was that pastor doing to get left behind?
He
he said he lost his faith.
He didn't really believe.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised by that. Is that in the book?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a bad moment, but
Very bad.
I mean, it could have been a good moment, but it's not handled well.
Well, I think Chloe's character, as soon as that happened, like, she just was getting so violently angry at people that, like, I understand it's chaos and stuff like that, but it wasn't like that pastor was trying to rob her or like anything. He was also trying to make sense. So I guess I don't understand. She seems like a logical character in the very first beginning where she's like trying to debunk Christianity, like has reasonings and different things for these things. But then she runs into a pastor who like she can't make sense of what's happening, and I think she was like yelling at him, right? And then like throws a Bible
upset.
and like runs out or something like that, you know? So like I don't know. It just seems like
Wait, did she throw a Bible?
I don't know. I felt like she did.
Oh no! Wait, she does throw a Bible through the window at their house.
Oh, at their house. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know why she's like. For me, her character might seem more confused, you know, terrified, all these things, but she's so violently angry. That's the part that I don't exactly understand. If you're like so shocked and she's still looking for her brother the entire time she's going home,
then why is she?
What did she suddenly get like? I don't know.
Well, I think that's the part of like the motivation of the movie.
Yeah.
She's confronted with this, you know, this pastor who didn't make it into heaven because he lost his faith, but now he's trying to evangelize to her, and that just makes her so angry because, I mean, obviously he's right.
Yeah.
And so she's just rebelling.
Maybe she is angry because they're right.
And all of the...
I mean, that would be frustrating.
All of the non-believers in the movie, they're holding some kind of grudge against the church. Yeah. Like, they're just reacting against faith. And so she's just mad at Christians. It's more than she's, I don't know.
She's mad at that more than she cares about what happened to her little brother.
Yeah.
But just like the mother on the plane, she wanders around the city forever calling for her brother that she saw disappear, like out of her arms, and it makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, she's like looking everywhere for him. But she, of all people in the movie, she was literally holding him when he disappeared.
So she's looking for a naked little boy around the city?
Yeah, she has his clothes.
I mean, she is confused, but it just makes me wonder, what would you do?
Yeah.
If would you just immediately go completely insane?
I'd start reading my Bible.
I think this is...
She was pushed to...
Amen.
She was pushed to great lengths. I mean, she ended up like climbing up a tower, and it seemed like she was almost going to commit suicide.
That's true.
Oh, yeah,
It
she
got
did
pretty
almost
dark
commit
there at the
suicide.
end.
But that's when she got cell service,
From Chad Michael Murray.
which leads to another movie highlight of when she clears the landing platform.
Oh boy.
You know.
So she's angry, she's terrified, all these things. She walks up to this tower, like climbs this very tall tower, and decides she's going to jump. And she can't get cell service to have a complete conversation with her dad or Chad McNamara this whole time. And so she finally gets up to this tower, gets cell service. Nick Cage is able to talk to her and be like, I'm running out of gas, like we're losing these engines, whatever the case is, like we need to land, but I can't see anything, all the towers are down, nothing's working, and I don't have space. And somehow it just so works out that they're in the same location. So she's able to go and run to where she thinks she can find a path for him to land, gets in some kind of truck and starts pushing all these construction zone things like out of the way to clear this mile stretch, right?
Yeah.
But she can't quite get a mile, but Nick Cage doesn't tell her, well, you failed.
I don't even
Because
think
he
it's a
doesn't want
mile.
to. Whatever it is. And anyway, and then she like lights some kind of fire so that he can see where to land the plane or something like that.
No, and here's the funny part about that. She's in a truck, and she's flashing the brights on the truck. And she's like, can you see that? I'm like, he's in a plane thousands of feet above the ground. You think he's going to see you flashing your truck lights right now? Your brights? Like, what?
Yeah.
She eventually causes some kind of explosion, doesn't she?
She does.
She does.
It's like barrels or
Yeah.
something, and yeah.
Oh, barrels explode.
She,
always. Yeah.
Oh.
Somehow finds, gas containers and,
Yeah.
lights it up.
And then they're able to guide the plane down exactly on that runway and crash it down, do the inflatable slide, kick out certain people, and
Take
then
out the short guy.
perfect ending. Which leads me to one, major story flaw I had, skipping sections here. Having been a reader of the book, and then we reached the end of the movie, I immediately said, wait, this is the end of the movie? This doesn't even begin to touch on what the first book encapsulated.
Doesn't cover
Yeah.
a lot of ground.
It does not cover a lot of ground. Like, the trailer we watched was exactly the hype of the entire movie, except expanded for the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a song in the club when you're like, when's the beat gonna drop? When's the beat gonna drop? When's the beat gonna drop? And then they just got off a plane. And literally no other story happens.
Yeah.
It was like all anticipation for the whole movie, and then credits roll.
Honestly, this is a great setup to a movie that the next movies are like end of the world survival movies where you have to like kill zombies and stuff. This is a great setup to a movie like that.
It was too much of a setup, I think.
Yeah.
There are a lot of characters in the book, of what happens after the I feel like this rapture section is part of it, but it's like the very first handful of chapters, because you move on to how people live after this happens.
So they attached Nicolas Cage to this, but then nobody saw it. Like people outside Christian circles don't care. And then the people who would have seen it, like all of those Pure Flix movies, like Courageous and
Oh yeah,
Fireproof.
Fireproof.
all of those, they do well for what they are because, churchgoers show up. But this wasn't quite that, and so no one saw it. And I don't know what the budget was and what it made, but I'm sure it lost money.
Yeah.
I have to
Not look
assume
that
that
up.
anytime there are multiple explosions, the budget has to be pretty high.
Yeah.
I was going to move into Rotten Tomatoes reviews.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
we should definitely do
Go
that.
for it.
Unless anyone has anything else to add there.
Let's do it.
Okay, so all these reviews are on RottenTomatoes.com. Just look up this movie. Lisa Bernard from the Toronto Star says, "Score one for Satan." Amy Nicholson from LA Weekly says, "It believes people might buy a ticket to Left Behind and not know the not know the twist, like someone sitting down to watch Godzilla and being shocked by the entrance of a giant lizard. Sean Burns from New England Movies Weekly says, the only prayers Left Behind inspires are for Nicolas Cage's career. I don't know. I feel like he capitalizes on these kind of things. I mean, he's got to know, right?
I honestly think he's pretty immune to like negative reviews.
No matter what.
Like Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage.
Except this movie.
Yeah.
I guess if you pay him a certain amount, I think it seems like he'll do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares about reviews.
Joshua Starnes from ComingSoon.net says...
ComingSoon.net, guys.
Says, I am now relatively certain there is a hell, and it is a darkened theater with no doors showing Left Behind on loop for eternity.
I don't know. It sounds like there'd be a lot of laughs.
It sounds like that's Lauren's heaven.
What a good time.
Yeah. Michael H. says, great biblical messages, awesome special effects, tons of emotion, and wonderful acting make for one of the best pictures of the year.
Whoa.
This is one of the two people.
Who is this guy?
Michael H. It's
One
just,
of the two. Is this a
it's
critic?
not a critic. This is just a regular
God
guy.
bless him.
Jeez.
I mean, I'm happy for someone who can feel that strongly about
I
this
like to end
movie.
on a positive note with those.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, I thought those reviews were almost as enjoyable as watching the film. Like, those are some good reviews.
Score 1, Satan.
Final thoughts. Did this movie deserve 1%?
No, I don't think it does.
Okay.
I mean, we had a good time.
Oh, we had a great time.
And there's not a lot of story there, but it's coherent enough. Yeah, I don't think this is a 1% movie.
What would you give it?
15?
15.
I mean, there's got to be room for some really bad stuff, because, I mean, there are some intolerable movies out there.
Yeah. Lauren, what would you give this?
That's tough because, it does make me laugh.
You've seen it a lot of times.
I
mean,
probably will see it a fourth time.
Yeah.
Just to see somebody else's reaction.
Yeah, Lauren didn't face the TV. She just sat on the other side of the room and watched us
Watching
watch
everyone
it.
else. Quietly laughing to myself. I think 15 sounds about right. Not to steal Jonathan's number, but
But you are.
I am. And that's what I'm going to go with.
Joe, what would you give this?
1/6 of a perfect movie.
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie from start to finish.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage, anytime you see him on the big screen, like he always just brings this presence to the film that he's in. For that reason, I'm going to give this movie...
Oh gosh, I'm not sure what you're going to say.
1/100th of a percent.
Oh my god.
Have fun doing that math, Pam.
I'm not doing that math. Give me a whole number.
Oh, 100%. I'm giving it a 100%
100%?
Hallelujah.
for enjoyment.
You're
Oh, Joe.
going to heaven just for that reading.
100%?
No, I don't know.
Well, give me a real whole
Well,
number.
are we giving scores based on if we enjoyed it or not? Because the Rotten Tomato system is a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
This is what you think this movie deserves, and whatever that means. I don't think you mean that it deserves 100%.
I'm giving it a thumbs up.
Give me a whole number.
I'm giving it a 15%.
Which is not to say I would recommend this to...
Yeah, well, that's what I was
People.
thinking. Like, I had a good time watching it. Am I ever going to watch it again? Like, Lauren, no.
Hey, if anyone listening is planning on watching this movie, let me know and I will watch it with you.
I mean,
What's your Instagram handle that you can go on there?
you could watch this again, or you could watch any other Nicolas Cage movie and have probably a better time.
Yes.
Okay.
I think because I'm not going to watch it again, I'm going to give it a lower score. I did enjoy watching this with you guys. I would never watch it by myself and probably won't watch it again unless Lauren asks me, and then I will. I think I'm going to give it more of a 5. I'm going to give it a 5.
Haters gonna hate.
It's valid.
We know who's getting raptured here.
Also, the idea that this movie could save anyone is just preposterous.
Do you think that was the intent? When whoever wrote, Jim Jenkins, whoever wrote this book, I just making names up. Jerry Jenkins?
Jenkins and LaHaye, right?
Oh, there you go.
That sounds right.
They wrote the book. Was their intent to save people? Probably.
Oh, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first Left Behind with Kirk Cameron, I think the intent was to save people.
Yeah.
Was that the intent of this
No,
movie?
this was... Someone
why
thought that
did
they could
someone make
jumpstart the franchise in the mainstream and make a ton of money, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
I don't see why else this exists. But.
Well, that brings our average rating for this movie to a 12.5, which I gotta say is a big improvement over 1%.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
So, 12.5, I'd say that's watchable.
That's like a 12.4% improvement.
Yeah, I think that if more people had seen it and reviewed it, it might have had a little higher of a score.
It had a lot
I also
of
just
reviews
realized
on there.
my math is bad. It's
Yeah,
a
it was
11.5% improvement.
Yeah.
Cut that out.
I wasn't going to say
I'm
anything.
listening. Yeah.
But yes, definitely not a good movie.
That's how we should, definitely not a good movie.
15% might be high.
Yeah. I'm going to give this movie 4 out of 5 Jesuses.
Just come up and some scoring system. But that's a wrap on this one for me.
I still love movies. Didn't ruin it.
I can still handle another movie. Watching this movie with you guys was pure enjoyment. Recording this episode was pure enjoyment. Thanks for being on the show. Legitimately.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
It's a good time.
Go around the table. Anything you want to plug? Joe?
I'd like to plug Dr. James Dobson, Focus on the
All right, that's the only plug you get.
Yeah, that's what I want to plug.
Jonathan, you want to plug anything?
My name is Jonathan Zachary. I am a person. I have an Instagram.
What's your Instagram handle?
Jonathan Zachary, I
There
think.
you go.
I don't have anything I want to plug. I
Well,
mean, obviously
nothing to
focus
plug.
on the family.
Yeah.
My main inspiration in life and in everything I do and hope to become.
Amen.
But
There you go.
yeah.
And I'm Pam, and I'm plugging this podcast. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for listening to episode 6. Please make sure you don't leave any of our listening sources behind. Go to Spotify, go to YouTube, go to Podbean, go to Google Play now. We're on Google Play. Go to Apple iTunes. Go to all the places and listen to this and other episodes. Tell your friends. Find us on Instagram @ExtraWhip. And make sure that you go watch this movie because, like Joe said, it's a gut buster and we had so much fun. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you on the next episode.